Hello everyone, Benji-Sales here, and welcome to this week's video where we break down some of the big headlines that happened in the video game industry this week. I post these every Sunday, and while I don't cover every single headline that happened in the industry, I focus more on the ones that affected business, sales, that sort of thing. So don't expect this show to cover every single little rumor or game announcement. This is more things that I feel will actually, impact the industry this week and moving forward. Now, I will preface this saying, of course, the biggest news of the week by far was Sony revealing their next-gen plans for the PlayStation 5. I am going to have a small segment on that in this week's video, but it's not going to be a big overview of my thoughts on it. I have another video on this channel where I reacted to the announcement actually the day that it was announced. So that's my main thoughts on PS5. If you want them, just find that video on this channel. So 3 topics this week. Let's jump in. And for topic number 1 this week, and what I feel was really the biggest news for the industry outside of the PS5 announcement, is that the Switch has passed the first hurdle for being officially sold in mainland China. Now, I want to stress, that this is only a partial. There's still a couple steps that they need to get through and a couple licensing things that they need to do before they can actually put the Switch on sale there in an official capacity. So this is not a done deal yet, but things are definitely moving in that direction very quickly. Now, it looks like Nintendo is going to be partnering with Tencent in the region to distribute the Switch, which is, I think, a great move. Tencent is the biggest actual video game company in the entire world by revenue. That's right, they're bigger than any publisher that you can think of. They're technically the biggest gaming company in the world. So, and they're much more familiar with that Chinese market than Nintendo is. So I think this is a really smart decision by them to partner with them instead of just trying to do everything there themselves. So good move on that front. Investors seem to love this news because Nintendo's price absolutely skyrocketed right after the announcement. But I do want to caution something on this, right? So while the Switch is likely going to be on sale there very soon, don't expect a massive explosion of Switch hardware sales once this happens. So China is much more of a mobile and PC based gaming, culture there than consoles, right? Consoles don't have a huge presence in the region. It's not like somewhere like the US or the UK or Japan where, of course, mobile and PC is huge as well, but there's also a giant console gaming demographic. That doesn't exist in China yet. So, there's always the chance that that could build up over time. And, I'm not saying the Switch isn't going to be selling any units. Of course, it is going to, see a boost from this. I expected the Switch up year over year anyways this year, even if China never happened. But if the Switch goes on sale in China this year in official capacity, that, of course, helps lift its overall sales as well. But, like I said, don't expect all of a sudden Switch is just going to sell 30 million consoles in China, right? That is very, 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 very unlikely, at least at this stage. Who knows? Maybe something changes around there, but go in with somewhat low expectations in terms of hardware sales, out the gate at least for the Switch. Now, what I think is actually bigger news here, at least in terms of revenue for Nintendo, is let's say they partner with Tencent and actually get a couple big mobile hits in China, right? So I actually think that that could be a much, much bigger impact on Nintendo's bottom line moving forward than actually putting the Switch out there, right? Like I noted, China has a lot of mobile gamers, and if they can get a couple, big hits there, that is something that could really drive an impact on their business, actually even more so than the Switch. Now, the Switch is already technically able to be purchased in China through the gray market, so it's not impossible to get your hands on one there, but of course this partnership is going to make it much, much more accessible for the wider audience there. You're going to see a obviously a marketing plan and budget behind this, which is not something that you get in the gray market, right? This is going to be a big official launch. So, like I said, I do expect some Switches to be sold in China, but I actually think that the mobile, implications of this deal could be far, far larger than the Switch itself. Now, the actual report, the actual news out of this does not mention anything, at least as far as I've seen, about, there being an actual plan in place for Tencent and Nintendo to partner on mobile here, you know, that's just something that I see as definitely a possibility. But at least from what I've seen, this deal in particular is revolving around the Switch itself. It's hardware, it's software, you know, that sort of thing. So yeah, pretty big news, pretty huge news. I don't know if it warranted quite the massive stock jump that you saw, but awesome news for everyone out there that bought in. You know, you did well for yourself. And yeah, that's going to wrap up topic number 1. All right, now for topic number 2 this week, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the PlayStation 5 at all, right? I mean, it's massive. It is gigantic news. But I don't want to repeat the kind of things that I talked about in my main video on this. So I wanted to bring a bit of a different light to it and, you know, talk about something else. And that is, what is the PlayStation 5 going to cost, right? That is a huge factor in terms of adoption. Now, let's just give a really brief specs. We know that it is a Navi-based AMD GPU. We know that it is a Zen CPU. We know that it has an SSD in it that sounds frankly kind of crazy, with a faster speed than any SSD that you can buy on the market right now is the actual claim. So, you know, this sounds like a very, very powerful console. This does not sound cheap in my opinion. And in fact, I wanted to ask you, so I ran a poll on Twitter where I asked what, you know, you'd be willing to spend. So I have a question for this week's industry news video I'll be shooting. I said, given the information we currently have on the PS5 and its specs, what is the most you would pay for one at launch? Now, I wasn't asking you to predict the price of this console. I was asking, you know, what are you willing to spend? What are you willing to part with? And after 519 votes, 19% of you said that you'd spend $399 US or the equivalent, you know, in your currency. $450 or equivalent was 17%. The, you know, leader here was 54%. So over half of you said that you would spend $500 or the equivalent, and 10% of you even said that you would spend higher than 500. So in terms of 500 and up, that comes out to 64% of, you know, these 519 votes saying you'd spend 500 or more. Now, obviously, my followers are going to be a lot more of that hardcore demographic. You know, if you're following someone that's talking about video game sales, you're a little bit more in tune with things than your casual, you know, consumer who walks into a Walmart or a Target or a GameStop and doesn't know a lot about stuff, right? So, you know, I don't think that necessarily these stats skew exactly how people think, but here's the thing. I do think that they could actually get away with a $500 launch for the PlayStation 5. So, you know, this is offering a true next-gen upgrade from what they're talking about here. This isn't, you know, some people I knew were nervous that this would be kind of, you know, wouldn't seem like a huge step up after we had the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, right? A lot of people were really worried that those mid-gen console refreshes might hurt the appeal of next-gen. But from what they're talking about in this machine, this is not, you know, just some kind of small upgrade. This is a huge jump. So you're going to see, I think, significantly more detailed worlds, bigger worlds, better frame rates because of that CPU that's in there. So, you know, it's a huge upgrade. And I think, here's the thing, the people that go out and buy early, right? The people that go out and buy day one, you know, they're getting games, they're getting all this, they're willing to spend a lot more money. And I think they could get away with that $500 price tag. I really do. Now, I'm not saying it's the best option, right? Don't get me wrong. If they can launch at $399, like we saw with the PS4, which had huge success at that price range, of course, you know, that's going to move consoles a lot easier than $500. But I'm just saying, I don't think $500 is a disaster by any means. I know some people, you know, might think that. They might think there's no way. You have to be $400. You have to. There's, you know, people are just not going to spend at $500, right? We saw, you know, like with the Xbox One, that it really struggled at that price tag. But here's the thing, it actually didn't at launch. So a lot of people forget that, but the Xbox One early, those first few months, sold huge numbers. It was selling extremely strongly. Now, that's what I mean here. I think they could get away with the $500 price tag if they believed it was a short-term thing, right? If they believed, hey, the parts that are in this machine, they're going to come down pretty quickly, and they think they could get it down to 400 within, you know, say a year and a half or so, or a year. I think they could do it. Now, again, I'm not recommending they do this, but I don't think it is crazy. $450 would be even better, right? $450 would be, I think, really great. I don't even actually think you would see a huge difference between the impact that $399 PS4 had and a $450 PS5 launch. I really don't think that $50 makes that big of a deal, especially, you know, as with everything inflation, right? I just don't think that $50 is a big deal. So if they can get $450, don't think it hurts it at all. $500, I think they can get away with it, but, you know, it might be a little bit tough. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I'm really curious to see how they price this. Sony have come out and said when asked, you know, this is a premium experience, you know, we want people to, you know, pay for a premium product. It seems to hint to me that they are going to be above 400. Personally, just on a completely personal level, I would prefer if we get a $450 to $500 PS5 if it means a much more powerful product. You know, I'm one of those hardcore, so of course I would take that personally over a $399 system that is a little bit weaker. So yeah, just my quick thoughts on the price and where they're going to go with that. Impossible to say for sure what it's going to cost until we see a little bit more details. We still don't know things like what kind of RAM is in this or how much, or technically how big that SSD is inside of it. There's some rumors that it's a 1 terabyte, but that again is not confirmed, so we don't know the amount of storage. So, you know, there's still some things that we cannot lock down this price. But yeah, that's it for topic number 2. All right, and for this week's third and final topic, it seems that Apex Legends' explosive start may be starting to slow down a little bit. Now, this comes from VGR.com. You know, that's the article that I actually read on this, where they broke it all down. And basically, the main thing they focused on was the Twitch, you know, viewer rate, right? The total hours watched between Apex Legends and Fortnite. And what we're seeing is that Apex Legends launched massive in terms of viewership, absolutely huge. Its peak was higher than Fortnite's. So it started enormous out of the gate, but it has rapidly declined. In fact, by 75% from its peak viewership. So we're talking about a major drop. And while that's not players, right, we still don't technically know in terms of what the current player base is. There's no way that, you know, to track that outside of, you know, what EA and Respawn know. We do know that at least in terms of viewership on Twitch, it has massively declined. So, you know, there's a couple things I think are worth breaking out here on that. And first of all, this doesn't mean Apex Legends is a failure. It doesn't mean, you know, it's game over. Wow, you know, it's done for. However, it does seem, I think, to show that really the update rate is just way too slow on this game. Now, you know, I don't think anyone expected this to be the success it was out of the gate. I don't think EA expected it. I don't think Respawn expected it. So, you know, I won't be surprised if you start seeing a lot more resources thrown at this game to, you know, get that update rate coming out quicker. But the thing that really makes Fortnite, you know, such a juggernaut and so consistent in terms of its player base, its viewers on Twitch, is that they are always making that game new, right? It is constantly updating at a borderline unbelievable pace. Now, Epic has, you know, been doing this for obviously longer than Respawn has been doing Apex, right? They've been behind Fortnite for a while now, so they're really in their groove. They know exactly what they're doing with this game, and, you know, Epic's in general just an older company anyways, right? They're in terms of a business, they've been around a lot longer than Respawn. So, you know, they're on their game with this, and the update rate is insane, right? That's what keeps players so engaged. It's never stagnating. You're never really just saying Fortnite, oh, what has Fortnite done lately? It's, you know, oh, nothing. It's the opposite. It's, you know, what's the new thing in Fortnite? What's the new thing in Fortnite? And Apex just does not have that, right? It's updating very slowly. And part of that, I think, has to do with their class system and the ping system, right? There's a lot of reasons behind this. It's not that, you know, oh, Respawn just, you know, aren't listening kind of thing, or, oh, you know, they don't know what to do with the game. You know, it's nothing like that. There's a lot of stuff behind it, but they got to find a way to make that quicker, right? You know, I don't know the simple answer. I'm not sitting here trying to tell Respawn how to run their game, but I think if you really want to keep those engagement levels, you know, they're going to have to find a way to make just a quicker way of updating this. And the other thing, too, is this is something I've been pondering, for a while, and I've talked about it on Twitter. I've, recently was fortunate enough to be asked by the Investing News Network. I provided some quotes and comments on an article that they wrote about how I thought, the Q1 for the video game industry performed. And one thing I noted in that interview was, we don't really actually know how much money Apex Legends is even making, right? So this is a free-to-play game, and we have no idea what the purchase rates are for these cosmetics, how many people are buying the battle pass. We don't actually know how much this is generating. So while it's started huge, there's still a major question there in terms of how much money this is making for EA. Now, I'm sure we're going to start hearing some updates about that soon because, there are investors and earning reports coming up very quickly here from EA. But, that Battle Pass did not seem to go over that well. A lot of people were unimpressed by it, especially after the offerings that Fortnite has. So, there's also some work to be done there. Now, I think Apex Legends is definitely making a lot of money, but, we don't actually know how much. So, yeah, like I was saying, that this doesn't mean Apex is doomed. I'm not sitting here trying to get doom and gloom, and the Twitch viewership doesn't necessarily mean everything, right? Maybe some people just don't find Apex as fun to watch as Fortnite, or maybe some of their favorite streamers just aren't doing Apex, but they still really like playing it. So who knows? Just because there's a 75% from its peak in terms of viewership, that doesn't mean players are that far down, right? That's not what this is saying for sure, but it is worth breaking out and noting that they've got some work to do ahead if they want to really compete with Fortnite, right? Maybe they're happy with, where they level out. Maybe that instead of still dropping off, maybe this levels out kind of where it's going and they're fine with that. Still a huge game. It's not like Apex is just completely fallen off the charts. It's still one of the top games on Twitch. So maybe they don't feel that. But if they want to truly compete with Fortnite, right, if that's their goal, if they think, hey, we can be right here neck and neck with them, definitely some work to do moving ahead. All right, everyone, that is going to do it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I am Benji-Sales. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, and if you liked the video, hit the subscribe and the like button. Always appreciate it, and it helps out the channel a lot. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.